Very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Stop. Because I appreciate it, but it's not about me, and I have bad news. It's not about you graduates either. Congratulations to you graduates. Congratulations to the faculty and the staff and your professors and your mentors, but I would like right now for you to go crazy with applause and emotion and honesty and thanks. And I'm talking to you, to the graduates, to those people that are out here on the sides and that couldn't be here. Tomorrow is Mother's Day. My mother sits right here. She's a graduate, the 1966 class of SUNY Cobleskill. And my wife is my everything, my two daughters and my father. And right now, I would like you to join me in honoring the people who changed your diapers, who fed you, who clothed you, who were there for you, who made sure you could afford to come here, who sit here, who aren't here, who died. It could be anybody. You think about them, you point at them, and you honor them, because without them, you are not here. I have to lose the hat because it is slipping off. Does anybody have a bobby pin? Thank you, Dr. Vanko, very much for that long and unnecessary introduction. But really, I would like to specifically honor you. There's been a lot of controversy with many presidents here at my alma mater for far too long. Dr. Vanko came in here and she decided to have a retreat in the Adirondacks with her cabinet. And they decided to hammer out some solutions. And from what I can tell, this campus is much better for it. I honor Dr. Vanko for her amazing work doing double duty not only here and at Delhi. And today we also honor the memory of her husband, Robert Vanko, who is an environmentalist and an education a teacher himself. And so thank you very much for what you've done at this college. We've only got about 5 hours to go, folks, so hang in there. I'm kidding, fan yourselves. Only burns more calories and makes you hotter. It's a myth. In 1995, I graduated from the only college that accepted me, this one. And just a moment to brag. Dr. Vanko said some very nice things, but I've had quite a ride. I'm not going to be modest. I've had an impressive career in an industry that most people are scared to enter, and those who do usually fail. I became a nationally touring and headlining stand-up comedian, a job I'll never quit. I became the host of a 3-hour national radio show where we talk about big problems and offer big solutions. I've hosted 2 television shows, contributed to dozens of others on CNN and other networks. I've interviewed senators, governors, far too many celebrities, civil rights leaders, and icons. And I was Stephen Colbert's opening act for 6 years. And most importantly, I married Valerie Vendrami. So to SUNY Buffalo State and SUNY Cortland State, who did not accept me, screw you. Smart people will always tell you that education is the best investment that you can make. Lois Goblet, who heads our Alumni Association, is a great woman. Her daughter, Elizabeth Goblet, where are you, Elizabeth? Raise your hand, is graduating. And her grandfather, where are you? I can't find her. There she is. Elizabeth, your grandfather's advice was get an education. Congratulations to you. And I want to echo your grandfather's advice. It is the best investment you can make, and for me, it's actually a great financial investment because I've been back here and you've paid me to perform at every orientation for like 10 years, so I've actually come out ahead. I want to apologize to her. My speech marks weren't prepared. She's doing great. Lots has changed here at SUNY Cobleskill since I graduated in 1995. New facilities, new courses, new professors. There's a telescope, which would have been handy when I was in astronomy class, using binoculars. There were budget issues at the time. I have a lot of great memories, but one thing that remains the same here at SUNY Cobleskill is the smell. Many people are visiting for the first time today. That stench is actually something I've connected at this point in my life with happiness. I had so many good memories here that I literally associate the smell of manure to happiness. To be fair, I was first with a lady in the field across the street. Actually, it wasn't a lady, but I'm kidding you. It was in Pearson Hall, room 224, and she's not updating her Facebook photos nearly enough for me, but I have so many memories that when I smell it, I am happy. Hard thing to believe. I've got a couple of memories that I brought here on stage. This is it's called a conference record. I kept everything. I was written up when I was living in Dix Hall my first semester. It says, description: after numerous verbal warnings by myself, the stereo in room 106, Dix 106, where are you, is still too loud. And then I have to write my own conclusions. I wrote, this is my handwriting, I have been warned and I plan on labeling the volume selector to a reasonable level. Pete Dominick. Here's my program from the 77th commencement. There wasn't a commencement speaker. So I am very honored to be your commencement speaker. I learned a lot here. But I learned that the most important thing to do is to be involved in everything and to get to know everybody. I was on a lacrosse team. I was the PA announcer in this gym of the men's and women's basketball games. I was in student government. I was part of 4 theatrical productions. And I was the designated driver every weekend. I probably should have charged for that. Really? That's the biggest laugh? Most valuable experience, though, that I had here was learning about folks and other students and other people that were from far different backgrounds from me. I got an education about life in 2 years that was so different from the one I had lived up until then. I've had the honor and opportunity to perform at many of your orientations, and I remember looking at you guys. I don't recognize any of you now because we're all wearing the same outfit. But you seem more confident. At orientation, you're scared, you're nervous, you're terrified, you got your keys hanging around your neck and your future's all in front of you, and now you look back and everything's different. But I said, the only real advice I gave you at the orientation is I asked you to challenge yourself to step outside the bubble of comfort that you lived in and get to know the people who you had very little in common with. If you were white, I asked you to hang out with some black folks. If you were black, I asked you to hang out with some white folks. If you're American, I said find the international students, sit down with them, ask them some questions, and so on. If you did that, then great. If you didn't, there's still time. Today I honor Curtis Smith, Taekwon Tate, and Elliot Griffin. They were my roommates and my RA who taught me life in America through a black man's eyes. I value that education as much as I have any other education I've ever received. They're all Cobleskill graduates. They're all doing very well in life. Elliot lives in Charlotte, North Carolina with his lovely wife and 2 sons, and this year I was covering both the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention, and that was in Charlotte, and I took Elliot and his family out to dinner, and when we walked out, people recognized me because I had just been on television on CNN, and people were walking up to me, hey, aren't you the guy? Hey, aren't you Pete? And Elliot just sat back and laughed. He said, oh, Pete the Meat. That was the nickname they gave me here, Pete the Meat. It's sad, but you don't get to choose your nickname, apparently. They taught me to look at life through a black American's experience, which taught me now to do that with anyone who is different than me, a heterosexual white male. I have 2 daughters now, they're right there. Ava is 8 and Julia is 5, and I live my life now to create a better world for them and for all women in America. I look at my life through a woman's eyes in many ways. I thought long and hard about what I wanted to say to you, and I rummaged through a box of memories after writing a speech and crumbling it up and throwing it out. I wanted to get this right. And I came upon a letter that my uncle wrote me 8 weeks after I was born. He'd never met me, but he wrote me a letter giving me advice, and I said, you know what, I think I should just read this. And I'd like to read that to you right now. It's not long, but it means a great deal to me. Does anybody have any water or maybe a beer? Here's some. All right, here we go. This is my uncle, 8 weeks after I'm born. I'm 2 months old, and he writes, Dear Peter James, his name is Jim, and that's my middle name. You don't know me, but I am your Uncle Jim from California, and I'd like to welcome you to the world and give you a few tips on how to get along in it. Most of the things I say won't mean anything to you for years to come, but hopefully someday you'll be able to understand why they were written and what they're all about. First of all, listen up. People must come first in life. No matter how far away you are from the people you love the most or who love you the most may be, no matter how filled with your own activities and concerns in your life, no matter how immersed in yourself and your own problems you are, remember others. I try very hard to remember this at all times, and I believe that most people do, but even the best of us sometimes forget. Never be too proud to say you're sorry if you really are. Second, there will be lots of discouragement and disappointment in your life. At least if you're a caring person, and I know you will be, Pete, because I know your mom and dad. Don't ever let that stop you from doing what you feel you must or being what you want to be. The only people who never know these feelings are those who feel wholly unto themselves with no regard for others. And these are the saddest people in the world because they have no hopes, no dreams, no fears, and never know the joy and pain of love and loss. Third, be true to all of your hopes and dreams, even in the face of fear, for nothing ever really worth your while is gained too easily. Getting follows giving, and sometimes rewards are slow in coming, or sometimes we miss them by expecting their appearance in the wrong place at the wrong time. Be patient and look hard at life. Stay open to new experience. Know the value of work, for work gives meaning and direction to your life, not just the work with earns your living, but all effort that can touch the lives of others and thereby bring rewards to your own spirit. When you have hopes and dreams, work hard to make them happen in reality, even when others may be working against you. And never stop believing in yourself. If you should be mistaken in your hopes and in your dreams, admit it gracefully and then move on to something new. Pause often to reflect, but never stand still. Fourth, learn from the joys and sorrows of the past, but never dwell among them. Regret is fatal to the mind and heart, and it can kill the body just as surely as disease. Know your mistakes and learn from them. Be sorry when you must. Then work to make things better. Be proud of your successes, but never let them wither while you sit and admire what you have done. The past is gone, the future is not yet, and the present knows itself with every breath and every heartbeat. Right now we're sitting at Bow Gym. There's a baby crying. Your heart is beating. You're taking breaths. You're fanning yourselves. Your family is looking on, wondering when I'm going to wrap it up. Feel that. That's the moment. We are always here and never anywhere else. Change is the way of life, and nothing is ever the same as it was or will be. We stand forever upon the brink of something new, and let the thrill of discovery keep your heart and mind ever alive with hope. And last, enjoy the whole of life, good times and bad, joy and sorrow, success and failure, fulfillment and frustration. For all these seeming opposites are but different ways of viewing the many aspects of your being, which is only the sum of all your experience. It will be rich only as you work towards its enrichment. It will be loved only as you make it lovable. It will be happy only as you bring happiness to others. Remember always what I've written here today. It's not what I would write tomorrow, but for today it's what I believe and try to live by. Take from it what you need and leave the rest for others or for other times. With love, your Uncle Jim. I now want to share quickly 3 stories from my life. 3 stories. When I was 16, my brother was 18 years old. We knew that he had a drug and alcohol addiction, but he was in recovery and we were proud of him and supporting him. What we didn't know is that he had relapsed. We found out shortly later it was pretty bad. He was in a tough way, a bad way. And the family counselor told us we had to do an intervention on him. I had no idea what an intervention was because there was no reality show about it yet. To my family, it was the most difficult moment that we had ever had up until then. And the family therapist said, "Don't worry, I know Brian, he'll go to rehab." That was the goal. trap him in a room and tell him how much you love him and tell him he's got to go to rehab. He'll go. But if he doesn't, you got to have consequences prepared. And it didn't go that well. My brother came into the room. He's a pretty smart guy. He knew exactly what was going on. He said, hell no, I'm out of here. My dad went, tried to get him to come back in. My uncle went. He'd flown in from Colorado. Finally got him to come back in. We got to tell him how much we loved him and why he needed to go to rehab. He left the room again. Somehow we got him back. This time it was time to tell him what the consequences were if he didn't go to rehab. They told me I was to go first because supposedly I was supposed to have the most impact. And I told my brother at the age of 16, I'd never had a drop of alcohol. I had not done any drugs. All my friends were doing it. And it was really hard to say no and to not join the crowd. But I told him I didn't want to end up like you. And I've had this leather bracelet on my wrist, I said, for the last year as a reminder, because you had one and I gave mine, meaning that I wouldn't use drugs and alcohol. Whenever I was tempted at a party and all my friends were doing it, I would think of you and I wouldn't do it in solidarity with you. I tore off the bracelet, I threw it on the ground. He stood up and he said, take me now before I change my mind. The moral of that story is trying to get to yes, whatever it takes to get to yes. I can't take responsibility for my brother's sobriety, but I was the catalyst in that moment to get him to go. Tomorrow, my brother celebrates 21 years of sobriety. He's also getting married on Sunday. Again. Can't be perfect. My second story happened right here in the lounge at Dick's Hall, which, by the way, we really missed an opportunity to humor there, making that the all-guys dorm. But I'm going to let that one marinate for a little while. Dick's Hall. There's no, it's all co-ed now, right? Oh well. I lived in Draper Hall when Jeff Foote, who is here right now, was my RD and I was an RA, or kind of a mercenary in a way. I was more of a blackmailer. I know you guys are drinking in there and I'm going to have to write you up, or we can work something out. I was sitting in the lounge of Dick's Hall and a guy who I was never really friends with, but for some reason I remember his name, Tom Kazakria, said, last year I did the Walt Disney World College program. Anybody do that? You should have. It's amazing. I thought, well, that sounds like a great way to spend my summer, the Walt Disney World College program. And they were coming to town to interview prospective students. And Tom made it sound so great that I went to Delhi, where they didn't come to Cobleskill. We had to drive to Delhi, and I went with a buddy of mine whose name was Pot John, because he smoked so much pot. And he wanted to be working at Disney World too. And I thought, I'm the right guy for this. I've done everything right. I'm outgoing. I'm perfect for this job. And at Cobleskill, the lady from Disney World gave this amazing presentation. And then we went in to interview. But there were so many kids that wanted this internship, they took us in 2 at a time, and I didn't get the opportunity to prove myself. I knew I didn't get that internship. I was depressed and distraught. I felt like a failure. I couldn't believe it. That was what I was going to do for the summer. I was going to go to Disney World and work there. And so when I came back, I wrote a follow-up letter telling her about myself and my dreams and what I wanted to do. 2 weeks later, I got a letter, and Pot John got a letter. His was really big and thick, like the letter I got from Cobleskill when I got into this college. And mine was really thin and small, like the letter I got from SUNY Cortland and SUNY Buffalo State. I didn't get into the Walt Disney World College program. For 2 weeks, I tried to figure out what else I could do, what I could afford to do with my summer. And then one morning, a phone call rang and woke me up, and it was Donna Double from Disney World. Is this Pete Dominick? Yes, this is Pete Dominick. This is Donna Double. I know who you are. Well, listen, I just read your letter, and I'm crying, and I'd like to offer you the job, the internship, if you're still interested. And she goes, unfortunately, all we have is fast food beverage host. I said, I'll take it. And I went to work in Disney World, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I got that because I didn't take no for an answer. I knew I had failed at the interview. I wrote a follow-up letter. I wasn't giving up, and I got in. And the last quick story is the most important one to me. I was doing stand-up comedy for a long time. I was with my girlfriend for 5 years. We were pretty serious, but we were having some tough times in our relationship. She really didn't like the business of stand-up comedy. It doesn't really treat you very well, and you got to be away every weekend. And I had this last-ditch effort to save our relationship. We were going to West Palm Beach, and I was opening for a big comedian. I was going to bring her. It was going to be awesome. It was a week before the gig. She'd bought her airplane ticket and took the weekend off from work herself, and my creepy manager called me up and said, "Oh, you got bumped from the West Palm Beach gig." "What do you mean I got bumped? I got to go. I got a ticket. My girlfriend took off. We're going to go work out a relationship. If I tell her I got bumped, my relationship is over." You don't... Click. "Are you still there?" He hung up. So I called the booking agent. He didn't take my call. So I called up the owner of the comedy club, which you never do as an amateur opening act comedian. That's unprecedented. You don't do it. But I thought, I can't give up. I gotta keep this or my relationship is over. I got him on the phone somehow, and I told him what was at stake. My entire relationship was at stake. Forget about my career. If I don't get this, she is done with me. She is out of there. He said, "Well, can you, I really can't help you. I don't know what to, we've already booked another comedian." I said, "Listen, I'll host the shows, whatever it takes. I'll just do 5 minutes. Please just pay for the hotel and we're good." He goes, "If you can find a hotel in West Palm Beach during boat week," or whatever the hell it was, "then you can come." And I said, "I already found one." And I went to West Palm Beach for that weekend, and that weekend, and I explained this to my 8-year-old and told her what I was going to say, that weekend we created Ava. And without Ava, we don't have Julia. And that, right there, my family, is my proudest accomplishment, because I did not take no for an answer on that gig either. And that is my advice to you. When someone closes a door on your face, find another door. When someone says no, find a way to get to yes. Find a person who will say yes. Everybody thinks there's some path to success, and everybody defines success differently. There is no path. You don't walk across this stage, get your diploma, and then get handed a job. Some of you are going to keep going to school. Some of you are going to be looking for a job, but you got to find that. And then you got to continue to find that. And I don't have time to talk to you about my failures. I've already taken too much of your time with my successes. I want to read a poem. This was apparently attributed to the Dalai Lama, but one clever, critically thinking listener of mine said he's not sure if this is the Dalai Lama or someone else. I don't care. It's a great quote. It's more of a quote than a poem. The Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, he said, "Man, because man sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he's so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then he dies having never really lived." One lesson from my life and from my career, and it's this. This country is very divided over just about everything, it seems. It's divided down these artificial partisan lines. Yes, they're artificial. Liberal and conservative isn't real. Democrat and Republican isn't real. These are ideas that have been made up by people in a way to divide and conquer us. The media does it to get ratings. Believe me, I know. I'm part of the media and I don't do it. And I don't get ratings. Politicians do it to get elected. It doesn't matter if you're a liberal or a conservative. Throw the labels out the door. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. Be an independent. Be an independent thinker. And when you need to get something done, you're going to be working with someone who has a different ideology than you, a different race than you, a different background, a different income class, a different education, a different God or no God at all, and you are going to have to find a way to work together and get it done. And today, you're graduates of SUNY Cobleskill, and you're here with your families, and you should continue to work with each other, for this community, for this country, and for this planet. Forget about all that bullshit, divisive rhetoric. It's not real. Don't buy into it. Don't be separate from each other. Work together, or you won't get it done. I promise you that. And so, yeah, start that wave, brother. Spread that around after this. I end here with questions to you. And if you agree with these in the affirmative and say yes, then clap. I ask you graduates today of the class of 2013 at SUNY Cobleskill, to continue to ask questions. Continue your education by asking questions. Answers, who cares about them? Just keep asking questions. Just keep raising your hand. Just keep looking it up. Sit down with a person who looks homeless. They have a lot more to offer than you could ever expect. I ask you to clap for these questions if you agree or say yes. Will you, the class of 2013, will you have the courage to succeed? Will you have find a cause? Will you find a cause worth standing up for? Will you find an issue to be active on? Will you care about something outside of yourself? Will you have the courage to lead rather than follow? Will you have the courage to live consciously? Will you have the courage to fight injustice wherever injustice lives? Will you have the courage not to look the other way when you see someone who has fallen down in life? Will you have the courage to go on when all seems lost? Will you have the courage to turn off the TV and pick up a book? Will you have the courage to be original? Will you take care of each other? Will you have the courage to take care of yourself, to love yourself? Will you have the courage to admit when you're wrong? If you will have the courage to do this, then clap and say yes, you will have the courage. If you want to create change in the world, the change has to begin with you. You have to be the change that you want to see in the world. The next generation needs you to be great. When my parents dropped me off in 1993, my mom said to me, "Go be great." My dad didn't say anything because he was crying. I ask you, will you be great? Will you be great? My daughters need you to be great, and your daughters will mean my daughters need you to be great. SUNY Cobleskill needs you to be great. Thank you very much for this honor and this privilege. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. Go be great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right.
Just wonderful.